I'm going to start with the eyes since they'll be the focal point of this look. First, I'm applying an eye primer. This is going to help the shadow adhere longer and prevent what we call fallout, the little flecks of shadow that fall onto the cheek. Primers are made of a silicone-based polymer called dimethicone. It glides on easily and fills in uneven texture. It also forms a protective barrier that, in the long run, can increase dryness. To avoid the drying effects of dimethicone, I teach my clients to perform a 60-second eye massage after they remove their makeup. I'm starting with a bronze eyeshadow to create a modern smoky eye. Using a relatively flat brush with a well-rounded tip, I'm laying it along the lash line and then building upward. Even though we're creating a smoky look, we always want to consider the shape we want to end up with. So, here I'm building outward as well. Sierra's eyes are quite round, so I want to elongate them as much as possible without going too far outside the border of the eye socket. A smoky eye relies on concentrating the deepest color around the lash line. Don't worry too much about making the base color perfect. It will be blended out later as we progress. Using a blending brush, I'm smoothing out those edges all the way up to the crease. Now, unless you're creating an editorial effect, you always want to follow the natural anatomy of the face. So, make sure you don't blend the darker color onto the brow bone. Next, I'm going to reinforce the lash line with a dark pencil. Even though it's a smoky eye, I chose a dark brown pencil, and I'm applying it with little hash marks to avoid any harsh lines. A dark pencil would have created a dramatic contrast to Sierra's skin tone, and I wanted this look to be on the softer side. Of course, deeper skin tones should use a darker pencil. You could even pair a navy blue or slate gray pencil with a silver eyeshadow instead. Don't be afraid to lift the skin at the brow bone to get right into the lash line and avoid any gaps. Using the deep brown eyeshadow from this palette, I'm going to trace over the eye pencil to seal it in, and then blend it outward to the corners of the eyes to give more definition. This dense brush deposits a lot of color, and since it's rounded, it helps avoid any harsh angles at the outer corners. Be sure to move back and forth between the eyes to achieve balance. I'm only going to blend this darker color to the middle of the crease, just to minimize any fullness at the outer corners. This light brown shade will act as our transition color. It will help the eye transition from the base color to the highlighted brow bone. Blending brushes are loosely packed and usually made of sable or synthetic fibers. They create a soft, blurred effect. And I'm blending this color through the crease, all the way across to the bridge of the nose. Now, if you're dealing with a less defined brow bone, you'll want to avoid blending this far. Instead, you'll want to use a highlighter to accentuate and keep that area open and bright. I'm going back to that original color with a dense brush just to redefine the lid. Accenting the fullness of the center of the lid is actually a nod to the way the look was originally worn by the flappers in the 20s. I've selected the second lightest color in this concealer quad, and I'm using it with a small synthetic brush to highlight the brow bone. Now, if I wanted to create a more dramatic arch, I would save this step until after I finish the brows, since the layer that's applied last always becomes the primary focal point. Next, I'm applying a black gel pencil to the upper and lower inner waterline. Even though this look is on the softer side, Sierra's eyes are very full and they can handle the intensity. Applying a dark pencil to the waterline reinforces the lash line and makes the eyes appear smaller. Here, I'm using a small detail brush to smudge the bronze eyeshadow over the black pencil that I've smudged into the lash line. Next, using the technique that we covered in our tutorial on perfecting the canvas, apply foundation for your client's skin type and skin tone. Remember to brush downward so as not to lift any fine hairs. I suggest always applying a thin layer over the center line of the face to ensure that it doesn't appear cakey. Using a liquid foundation gives a sheer finish, and it can be layered over any problem areas. Now going back to the concealer brush, I'm going to apply concealer only on the concave areas under the eyes. Then I'm sealing everything in with a powder brush. If you need to review these steps, go back to the tutorial on perfecting the canvas. Before I move back to the eyes, I want to apply a layer of powder with a powder brush just to make sure everything is sealed in. Now I'm adding a few points of light to the inner eye and the inner 3/4 of the lower lash line. Moving to the brows. Brush upward to find the ideal shape. If the brows are sparse, you'll want to brush downward first to find the arch. Here, I'm accenting her natural shape with a thin brown pencil. Using short hair-like strokes keeps the brows soft. You'll learn more about accenting the brows in our tutorial on eyebrow shapes. Set the brows in place with a clear brow gel. Next, using a contour brush, add dimension to the face by applying a deep flesh tone powder under the cheekbones. Then apply bronzer along the hairline as well. I chose a shimmer blush with gold flecks to accent Sierra's warm skin tone. Here I'm using a small sable brush to apply the blush to the apples of the cheeks, blending upwards towards the temples in circular motions. In keeping with the soft theme of this look, I'm using a fat stick to define the outer edges of the lips. Then I loaded the color onto a lip brush to fill in the center area. Now going back to the eyes. Hold the wand horizontally and wiggle the mascara at the base of the lash so that they hold their curl. Sierra's eyelashes are naturally curly, so I don't always need to use an eyelash curler when I work with her. Turn the wand vertically to individually coat the lower lashes. And there you have it, Sierra's Earthy Smokey Eye.